I'm just laying them
Ready?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We'll call the June 4th, 2020 village board meeting to order. Number 2 is roll call. Everyone is in attendance except for Attorney Sorensen, who is excused. Number 3, agenda changes.
I have one, number 9, which is the report of the village officials. In my opinion, I've been stepping on toes, so I would like to move the administrator to the end and let all of my other department heads speak in front of me, and I can add to them, and then I will report on the backside to give them their due credit due.
Okay.
Okay, and if it's okay with the board, I'd like to make that a permanent fixture.
Sure.
Fine with me.
Okay.
Number 4, consent agenda. A, May 21st, 2020, regular board meeting minutes. B, licenses and permits. We have the 2020 and 2021 renewal liquor licenses as presented. The combination Class B and Class B fermented malt and beverage liquor and liquor licenses as presented. And we have the 2019-2020 Class A liquor licenses for wine only as presented. C is presentation of accounts and other claims against the village. Are there any questions?
Jeannie, that should say 2020, 2021, Class A.
Oh, the
Yeah.
Class A under wine.
Yes. Wow.
Okay. Are there any questions?
I'll make a motion to approve. I'll second.
Roll call. Dan?
Aye.
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 Motion carried. 5 is pre-registered citizens to be heard.
Red is also agenda under, he's letter A under new business, so we can move him to that when we get to that point in the topics.
6 is then committee reports. 8, library board.
We met on Tuesday and had updates regarding the opening plans, and I think I'm gonna defer most of the details to Ally for her report. But she and the staff have come up with a good plan for opening on Monday, so I think it best come from Ally.
Okay, then we will move to 7, unfinished business from previous meetings. There is none. Number 8, new business. A, outside events, Brett Springstroll, Forks, June 21st, 2020.
I have 6 copies if you guys want them. Sure. Oh, hold on.
If you need it back, I can.
No, I printed one for myself, but. Brett Springstroll, I'm the new owner of Forks as of Monday. I have a feeling I'll be here on a regular basis, so I'm just gonna give you a quick rundown of who I am. I'm a first responder here in Hortonville. I live in Hortonville. I'm from Hortonville. We have 3 kids that go to Hortonville School District. I coach for Hortonville Youth Sports. I'm the vice president of the boys high school baseball booster club, and my wife runs the concessions for the football program. So I have a feeling I'll be here on a regular basis. But for this, basically I was, this band, Twisted Chords, reached out to me. They wanted to do some sort of outside concert. I said, yeah, that sounds great. I'll see what we can do. They said, we don't want to get paid, and anything we make, we'd like to donate to something. I'm like, well, that's great. Youth Sports is going to get to play it. They're not going to have concessions. You know, this would be a good opportunity. So we came up with a plan. June 21st from 3 to 7 p.m. They would play outside. We'd like to request to use Pocket Park, which is right next to Forks, the little green space. That way we could rope it off to keep crowds out of there. You know, people could walk by and hear them, and you could hear the music down Main Street. So all of the businesses downtown could use this as an event. It wouldn't just be for porks, anyone could advertise for that day, that time. We would do something, for every meal, we would do some type of donation. If other businesses wanted to jump on with that, great. And then the kids said that they would donate any tips that they make to HYS, and they're not gonna charge us anything to play. It really would be, you know, a good opportunity to get people downtown. It's good for everybody, and especially for me, just taking over, this is a pretty good opportunity to thank everyone that has supported us over the last, 3-4 months, coming and taking takeout. If we can do something for downtown, I think it would be good.
Brett, is this similar to the beanbag toss that happens where they rope off a certain section outside that is where they can sell? Are you looking at selling outside or just no?
No, I don't wanna do anything, I don't wanna narrow it down to us.
Okay.
I don't wanna block off the alleyway like we do for the beanbag toss, that's why hopefully we
Okay.
can put them kinda in between the buildings and not restrict any traffic or anything.
Okay. I just know that that was always a concern because it had to be blocked off because they didn't want people with open intoxicants walking outside of that, so, yeah, I was curious if that's, are you doing that again this year?
No,
No, okay.
it doesn't work out real well, so.
Okay. Chief, do you have any specifics? I mean, I love the idea, I'm just worried about people walking around with open
With
intoxicants.
open intoxicants, that's my concern.
How do we discourage that?
Like, for me,
Yeah.
I can put somebody at both doors, and stop people, but I obviously can't stop anyone else downtown.
Yeah.
We would be willing to put somebody at the door for us,
Is this a Sunday?
yes.
Okay.
And the time is negotiable too, I mean, if 3 to 7 doesn't sound like a good time, it's just what we put down.
Any chances Hartfield's having their grants, because normally they have one on Sunday from 3.
This is Father's Day, so we're assuming nobody else is really doing a whole lot, and this is kind of why we picked it, was kind of wrap it into the youth sports thing, and,
Right. You might want to talk to her, because she had sent me a message saying that they were starting up soon.
okay. Yeah, I want to talk,
She had one last
Okay.
Father's Day.
if we get approved, I'll bring it up to everybody, and if they have another band, great, I mean, it's just another reason to get people out.
Yeah, right now she doesn't have any events listed, the next thing is August 2nd and August 16th, but I'm sure she'll fill it up, yeah.
Okay.
I love the idea, but yeah, that's my only concern, is that it would be, and I get you, I mean, you would put somebody by the door, I'm just not sure everybody,
Right.
We have a special event permit. That would probably be where you fill out all
Yeah.
your information, so.
James, you got it?
yeah, and it's just, I think it's something we created so that you can put information on there and then it just goes like to the chief, goes to the public works director. So if we need to do anything in resources, we just know what to allocate,
Okay.
which makes sense. It's a way that we can work together as a team.
The only thing is this allows alcohol licensing, which he already has a license,
Yeah.
street banners, street closures. He doesn't sound like he's doing any
No.
of that.
Yeah, we're trying not to.
You know?
No, it's not,
So-
it's just using
and
Pocket Park really, but that's a
Yeah.
public park, but.
We'd still wanna,
Yeah, just at
we
least.
still have to do that, so.
Welcome to owning a business in
If
Hortonville,
it's
Brett.
a, if it's a public park, didn't we just say that?
I think it's
in
because,
The last board meeting that you can have malted beverages in the
yeah,
park?
but he's gonna block off the park.
Yeah,
So he'd have to put that on there, that he's gonna block off the park.
Well, and you're not planning on having beverages in the park.
No,
yeah, but I was just saying in the last meeting, we just said in the parks you can have malted beverages.
It's true.
So open intoxicants
But that's
wouldn't
in the
be.
park, and that they were referring to on the streets and
Or,
sidewalks.
yeah, I'm
so-
concerned that people are gonna walk.
Oh,
across
walking out in the
street
on
from
the
street.
sidewalks
Oh, okay,
and
okay.
stuff, that's the
Walking across
concern.
the street
All right.
and, the other bars to,
Sure.
stand on the sidewalk to listen to it with their open
Oh.
intoxicants.
Sure.
We don't
I
want
hear.
40 people to cram in there. If they're playing, we don't want to fill that area up either. We want
Yeah.
to try to enforce the social distancing still. We don't want to cause any more issues.
Okay.
It's like a
Yeah.
passerby band, listen as you walk.
And you're only looking at doing like 3 to 7 in the afternoon?
Yep.
Okay. I would say you might wanna talk to some of the neighbors. I know that there are some, not saying any names, but some that call in noise complaints.
Okay.
Even though it's within the hours where you should be able to do that, or, you might wanna just give them a heads up.
Okay.
And I would suspect they would call in open intoxicants on sidewalk too. And I would hate for that to go back to you or to be on any of the other bars downtown if that wasn't the intent.
Right.
You're making it clear, but I just would hate this to be an issue. I mean, Jim, you're probably thinking the same folks, but
Yeah.
yeah.
It seems like a really good idea. I mean,
Yeah.
something to generate money, something to get people out and generate business for downtown.
Okay.
Are we looking to take a motion on this, a vote,
Do we need to do anything?
or are we just giving?
I
Then we're kind of going against our special events policy.
Yeah.
You know, that like Peter has to, we
Right.
should be going through a special events permit.
So we basically should be filling that out, going and having it approved through you and the
Normally the
chief.
administrator's the final say on stuff like
And
that.
then basically we don't even get
It
involved.
doesn't come to us.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it shouldn't even,
Okay.
yeah. So
I think
if
the
you wanna
main
just
reason
fill
it-
out a permit tomorrow and,
I think the main reason it was brought up to you guys was because of the situation with COVID and everything on basically public events. That's it.
Okay.
And also the noise, because that has been a complaint in the past,
Yeah.
so.
No more than the noise at 2:30 in the morning in the alley, so. Yeah, I get the social distancing thing. I mean, you've got teenagers in a van, you're trying to keep the public away from them, and I love that. And then, obviously, in your bar, I'm assuming you've got something set up for social distancing. I think I've seen your Facebook post. I mean, you've got,
Yep, every other table.
yeah, I mean, if it becomes the only thing I can think of is if there's any kind of orders, whether from the state or the county or something that come through, well, then this might just all of a sudden, and then
Right.
that changes everything, yeah.
And that's why, you know, if we block it off and people are just walking up and down the streets and hopefully they kind of go from bar to bar to bar, it seems like a win for everybody.
Yeah, I would definitely talk to the other bar owners. I mean,
Well,
if
and
for
then-
no other reason, you might get more donation opportunities out of it too, so.
Well, that was the whole plan. If it got approved was,
Yeah.
hey guys, this is what's happening.
Just
You can
explain to
make it
them
your
the
own event.
issues
Yeah,
and,
it's
yeah.
not just us. They can market it as their own. It doesn't, they don't have to tie on to us at all.
No.
so basically we
Yeah.
will just,
Yeah. I don't see any
The
issues
special
with it. You
permit.
give them the permit, right? It'll go to Chris, Carl, and myself, and then we'll sign off on it, so you can start planning for it accordingly.
Just bring it to the office tomorrow.
Just call us at it and
Okay. All right, sounds good.
Thank you, Brett.
Thank you very much. I
Thank
appreciate
you.
it.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Welcome.
you too. We'll now move to B, R-13-20, amending R-11-17, Wild Wind Utilities Available.
This was in your packet. Essentially, there is one change of verbiage in that resolution, and what it did is it included phase one. Because the way it was originally written, it said all developments in the Wild Wind would have to include utilities. And if we go ahead and allow Mr. Clegg to replat, we need to clear that, so we added phase one to clarify that that would be the only section that would require water and sewer from the village.
In phase two, lots 39 and 40,
Correct.
so.
So that's what you
But that's
added.
part of the developers agreement, so I think what Dave is getting at is, we just need to put the phase one word verbiage in there. to
But
amend
do we
it.
need to add the phase two lots, those couple of lots?
We can do that in the developers agreement.
Because it's not mandatory. They could elect to go on well and septic.
Okay,
1 through 30, which is already developed, are required.
okay. So if this is just cleanup is what it
Yes,
is?
yep.
Okay,
Because not every house is 1 through 30 has been built. So if we change it, then somebody could come in and say, well, I don't want water and sewer, I want to go on well and septic.
yeah.
And we don't want that. We want to require 1 through 30 as proposed originally.
Then I'll make a motion to approve R-13-20, a resolution amending public water and sewer availability to Wild Wind subdivision.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. C, replat of Wildwood subdivision phase two, update discussion.
We just put this on the agenda. If any questions that the village board may have had that would arise out of the public hearing that was at 5:30. So I think most of the people here are well aware of what we're looking to do. So if there's any other questions, we can just have an open discussion while in the village board.
So the blasting that Sam was bringing up, in the developer's agreement, it very clearly states that the village is not liable for anything, because I would imagine if he's just replaced this 6 months ago and now all of a sudden he has problems with his well, even if it's that the water table goes down because of all the, you know what I mean? Is there? I
There's
just-
no guarantees. Anything that's underneath the ground,
There's no guarantee.
there's no guarantees that you're ever gonna get water. Your water vein could dry up tomorrow,
Yeah.
and that could happen across the entire subdivision.
I mean, right now we have a high water table.
Correct,
And right now, everything looks great for digging a well, but
correct.
you're smart enough to dig
The
further
research
down.
that I did basically said two things. A, just like Jim Clegg said, it's very centralized now when they blast. It doesn't carry, it's very centrally, it's located, they're blasting, 7 feet into the ground. It's not carrying, some of these wells are hundreds of feet into the ground. They're
Yeah.
casings, they're steel encased.
Oh, I know, I mean,
The
we've
bigger
got a
problem-
350-foot well on the farm, so I mean.
Yeah, the bigger problem that has happened in the past is they get sediment in the water, which then may offer a clog or a congestion to the water pump, which then causes pump failure. Not the need to completely redig an entire well. You do get clouding of the water. It's no different than stepping in a puddle. Once it dissipates, it clears itself out. And that's where I read further, who's liable? And primarily, the blasting companies are the ones that carry the liability insurance on these developments, or the developer.
Okay, and then
So-
how long does that, let's say somebody doesn't, because you did some research, I'm asking. If somebody has a problem with their well 6 months down the road, and the developer is, the developer's agreement, how long does that, let's say all construction ended, and now 6 months later, a neighboring property has problems with their well, how long can they come back?
Each one will be different.
Okay.
Essentially, we need to put it on Mr. Clegg, because it could take 6 years for him.
Used to emphasize the basic, fundamental, or intrinsic nature of a person, place, or situation.
We watching over there, buddy.
Yeah.
New member.
It could essentially take him 6 years to sell all these lots.
Okay.
We can't be the sheriff on this. Him as the developer has to then relay to any person selling a home that wants to put a foundation in. You are responsible for your own blasting company and bonding them to have liability coverage in case something would happen.
And that is gonna be clear as crystal?
It was
in that
not in
developer's
phase
agreement?
one.
Okay,
But it will be in phase 2.
Okay,
It's
that's what
noted,
I'm
and we
worried
have
about.
it, Carl, and that's something, as we discussed, the access points, because we do not want people who are up for future assessments, 1 through 30, are up for future assessments on maintaining the roadways. We do not want heavy traffic on those roads, and we do not want to have this issue with the wells and bonding, or blasting down the road,
okay,
so.
That was
Thank you.
one of my major concerns too, and I asked him about it,
Yeah.
and he said he had thought about it already.
people are just so happy, and not that Sam is, I'm not saying that he is, I'm just saying anyone in general, if something happens and that they've spent their money, people
Well, they
want
should
to.
have a recourse if
They-
they'll bring it.
If there's a problem, that, yes, there should be recourse. I just would hate for us to just overlook something that
We
could
are,
be huge.
we are also putting, just to update the board, we're also putting future assessments on the stormwater pond. So that will not be a responsibility of the village moving down the road. So if and when it has to be maintained, that'll be an assessment put on to the landowners in that subdivision. So it does not revert back to the village.
And what about the stormwater pond liability if a kid goes in there and drowns? Whose property is it and who's?
That's not a big concern. I mean, there's
No?
ponds everywhere across the country.
I know, but,
Government has very, very vast array of liability that doesn't really affect.
okay, I just wanna be
It's not like
sure.
a typical business.
The
And you have a
biggest
lot
thing
of
is-
immunity when it comes to, error on
Okay.
village or any cities.
Cause I know like in certain, like if it's near an apartment building, isn't there fencing if it's required? There's certain requiremements and obviously this is
Those are the
rural.
Depending on the
It's
depth of
actually-
the
Yeah.
pond and the condition of the pond, it could be a dry pond, it could be a wet pond.
City of
Detention
Appleton
versus
does this with
retention,
all
yeah.
of their subdivisions.
Yeah.
I just would hate for the village all of a sudden to get their,
It'd be very important that that pond is built to spec so it has a flatter shelf before it drops off.
Yeah.
That's one of the
Yeah.
requirements.
The other thing, until Mr. Clegg dedicates that and hands it to the village, it's on his responsibility as the developer. So,
And
like, he
then
has
the-
not dedicated phase 1 yet, we have not received that, correct?
and the
Phase 1.
existing pond that's there, that's gonna be private property, correct?
Phase,
Have we received phase 1 from Jim? Have we taken that?
a long time ago.
Okay, okay, so he has to essentially hand it off to the village
Okay.
once it's developed.
And the existing pond that's there, that is private property?
Correct.
That's not the village, okay.
That actually reverts that 17-acre lot.
That's what I was thinking.
yeah,
Yeah, there's a
yeah,
dock there, there's a whole bunch of stuff there now, so, okay.
With a hefty price tag.
Mm-hmm.
That's Peter's lot, Peter's 997.
There's already a dock there, Peter, so you're all set to go.
I'm gonna build a bigger dock. And I was thinking of putting in.
Looks like a nice one.
Rental pontoons.
Ooh, nice.
Paddleboats.
Permit.
Yeah, you're gonna like it when it's done,
Okay. Send my kids over.
when they get older.
Hey,
Wondering.
But any problem they have, I mean, it basically comes down to the home or property owner and the insurance company for either the blasting company
Correct.
or the developer. None of it comes back to us.
Correct.
I just wanna make sure of that.
Yeah,
No,
well, I mean,
that's-
when people sue, they sue everybody, but because we have no, I mean, we have no responsibility for what's, you know, the actual acts of the development itself, so they can still sue us, and we still have to go to court and pay for legal expense. Anybody can sue anybody for anything.
Right.
We've learned that, you know, I mean, people get desperate, they sue, and I just would, because we have a developer's agreement, I just wanna make sure that that's a Loctite, no different than your subdivision, we had a developer's agreement, but it was never Loctite when it came to a special assessment, how that was gonna be handled in the future, and so now, I just don't wanna be stuck in that same position, or a future board to be stuck trying to figure out what we were trying to do in a developer's agreement.
It's pretty tight.
Yeah,
It was pretty tight,
it was
but
pretty
wasn't-
tight. It was
Yeah,
just,
it was pretty
yeah,
tight.
it was pretty tight.
But it wasn't,
There wasn't a lot of
the
wiggle room in
developer
that.
wasn't very forthcoming to everybody exactly how that was to be handled later. Isn't that maybe the better way to say that?
That was 17 years later, though.
Correct.
Yeah, that's 17 years later.
Yeah,
That
17 years later, and this could be
Yeah.
17 years later.
Yeah. Well pumps fail. In fact, there were people out there that replaced them.
I know,
You so,
did my fair share.
It's not that hard. I've replaced them before.
yeah. So, I mean, they fail all the time. It's not like, they don't know.
But is it that he had to dig a whole new well?
We don't know why it
We
failed. It
don't
could have been a Chinese well.
Okay.
We're just speculating here.
I thought it was the whole well, not the well pump he had to replace. I
It's a
thought,
well pump.
okay,
Yeah.
then that's a different story, okay. Sorry, that's how I understood it, is that he had to replace this whole well.
That's kind of hard to do. I mean, you can clean a well, but you can't replace a well. You can fill it in and build a
You have
new
to
one.
drill a new
You
one.
had to drill a new one, that's what that was the
Oh,
impression I
wow.
was under, is that he had to replace his well.
Yeah.
You know,
I never
unless
seen
there
it.
was a shift in the rock that cracked the casing, but apparently it was just a pump,
Yeah.
If it was just the.
which is what, a couple hundred?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, for his, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't deal with that small pump.
79.99.
Yeah.
Then I misunderstood, I
Chinese.
understood it as he had to replace his well, not the well pump.
That's just the way people talk.
Okay,
Are there any other questions, concerns? If not, we'll move to D, R-12-20 CMAR resolution.
All right, I'll take that. On my handout there, I talk about the reasoning and the rationale behind the CMAR report. It's a role for publicly and privately owned domestic wastewater treatment works. It's a self-evaluation tool that promotes the owner's awareness and responsibility for wastewater collection and treatment needs. It measures the performance of the wastewater plant during the calendar year and assesses its level of compliance with existing WDNR permits. I don't know if any of you had a chance to really review it, but it's pretty generic. We got mostly all IEs 4.0. So the wastewater plant is operating pretty efficiently. We got some good guys down there. We stay on top of maintenance. Like I said, hopefully we'll get it paid off in 10 years and get rid of that big note and get these breaks down. So anyhow, we're here to approve R-12-20. So unless anybody has any questions about the actual CMAR itself. I don't know if Jim, have you seen any of these CMARs? Have you been did you get a chance to look at it?
Nope, I did not.
Well, we can give you a minute.
Do you want to describe? Yeah. Do you want to describe the CMOS?
I had no idea what it was.
It's only
I looked at it,
three
but I had no
pages
idea what I
long,
was looking at.
It's something they do every year.
This is CMOM, that's a capacity and management operations and maintenance. That's a whole different program. CMOM is something that every utility should have, totally separate from a CMAR.
CMOM helps you do your preventative maintenance on your equipment and your functioning of your utility in case of emergency. And then the CMAR is prepared for the DNR, basically as your scorecard on how you operate and function. So I had the pleasure of doing both in Delafield when I was there.
SOX compliancy.
Okay, so you're just looking for a motion?
Yeah, again, it was pretty vanilla because there was no violations, excellent operation of the facility, should be good for a long time to go, so, yeah, it's pretty basic, so we're just looking to approve R-12-20.
And then that gets sent to the DNR, this one? For the.
Yeah, tonight, once the motion is approved, the resolution is approved, I'll scan it in and submit it with the CMAR and then submit that to the DNR. So,
Okay.
and then we won't hear anything until next year's CMAR.
Then, motion to approve R-12-20, CMR resolution.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. EO-5-20, Animals, Chapter 23.
I'll take that one. We had the committee of the whole last month, we had discussed both, animals and parks and rec. However, not sure if it's part of the COVID and people being at home, but have been experiencing a lot of horrific animal calls. We had a dog, they killed another dog. We had a dog that mauled a 1.5-year-old child. However, we don't have ordinances that we can write tickets for. We don't even have an ordinance where we can issue a citation for a dog at large. It was brought to light that our dog at large is actually, we're using it in our track system under dangerous dog, and it must have at least 2 incidents before we can write the dog at large, okay? So with that being said, I know that you guys have looked over the animal and the Parks and Rec, but we're looking to get an official approval that we can start using that, those 2 ordinances right away. I also handed out a sheet that looks like this. It's got the bond amounts. So these kind of go hand in hand. If I don't have bond amounts for the ordinances, they're not really doing me any good. Basically what I did was I looked at the type of offense or the violation, which is in the middle of the actual language that says interfering with animal control. And then I wrote down all these bond amounts on here, compared them with other jurisdictions like Grand Chute and Seymour, and had a couple different officers looking at these to see if we thought that they're all in line. Once we did that, we took it to the judge for approval. The judge gave his stamp of approval, and now we're just looking for your approval. We had the animal ordinance. Muni Code actually, after you guys saw it, Muni Code actually looked at it and gave us some suggestions of what, just kind of little verbiage things, or took out things that they thought were repetitive. And as far as like language, like they took out, we had cruel, they put cruelty in there, things like that.
Chris, how are these violation payments split up? County get part?
Yes,
Okay. How much do we get?
it depends. We either, the higher the dollar amount, the more that we get, so.
Obviously, yeah.
Right, so like 124, I believe it's 50.
Out of 124, we get 50.
Right.
Okay. So, let me ask one more question. Currently, when you write a citation for a violation, is there any bond price to that?
Is there any what?
Any fee, fine?
Yes, so if we, say for instance, if we have an animal at large,
Right.
so we could write a municipal ordinance for animal at large, the bond would be $124.
Okay, okay.
And then if we write an animal at large and see if, say for instance, if a dog would come up and nip somebody on the, in the rear end, which is an incident that we had. So if that parent would take that child to the hospital, then we could, up to $1,000, refer, charge the hospital bills and stuff like that for restitution.
So an animal at large that might attack somebody and bite him in the leg, is that a dual offense?
Well, it's an animal at large is what we would write them for. But then normally, if we don't have an ordinance, they have to sue them civilly. This way it takes that step out of the process and we can run it through municipal court. I mean, you could write, actually, there's a lot of incidents where you could write several
That's what I meant.
tickets. I mean, you can pile them on.
Yeah.
And the judge is the one that just determines at the end,
Okay.
you know, what he's gonna do.
So is this what we currently have, or this is what you're proposing?
That's what I'm proposing.
What you're proposing, what do we currently, I mean, what we currently have is not really
Basically animal at large.
defined at this at
Well,
all.
they're
right?
dangerous.
We have,
Yeah.
okay.
Anyone have any questions for Chris?
I do. I was asked, are animals allowed in the parks? I mean, animals are allowed, but they have to be muzzled, and that was the question somebody had asked. Because in a different municipality, they have to muzzle their animal, and muzzling to me is putting something over their snout,
Right.
correct?
I believe that the Otto Miller Park, they cannot be. It's the only park, if you see on the bottom here,
Mhm.
is actually a separate, they have signs posted, no dogs at park.
I think a commercial club park has signs posted as well.
Yes, I believe that they have
So
a,
the
they have a
cemetery.
sign.
Cemetery does too.
Cemetery's
Yeah,
got a
cemetery,
sign.
yeah.
But Miller, and Alonzo, you can allow them in there as long as they're on the leash, they're picking up their
Okay.
dog waste.
But they don't have to be muzzled, they can be
Exactly.
just on a leash, okay.
Right.
But you're still responsible.
Yeah, you're still-
Oh, yeah.
responsible
Yeah.
for their behavior.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think the noise and like, especially across the lake, you can just hear, you know, especially if a dog is barking all day long, you can just, that carries. And I don't even know, I mean, if there's anything right, we don't have anything currently right now for that, so this would give us that. Okay. So what are you looking for us to do tonight?
I'm looking to approve the animals, and then the next one happens to be parks and recreation. But, so I don't know, I probably need two separate motions, but I'm looking to be able to start using these.
So with the animal noise, what's the threshold for an animal noise
Uh-huh.
violation?
And it's, say for instance, you have a dog that's been barking for the last 6 hours. You know, you go and you can have a conversation with the person. Hopefully they start bringing in the dog instead of leaving it outside and letting it bark and bark and bark. If we get called back there again, I mean, the first time might be a verbal warning. The second time could be a written warning or a citation. The first time could be a citation. It's all an officer discretion thing as far as what's happening. There's certain different situations. We have people who have cameras on their houses, and they're recording, or they're calling us and saying, you know what, this has been going on for the last week. Monday through Friday, this dog has been barking from 10 o'clock at night until 2 o'clock in the morning. So, I mean, we have to look at the whole totality of what we have before we determine, but as law enforcement, we have 3 different options, and we can either issue a verbal warning, we can issue a written warning, or we can issue a citation, or we can charge them criminally. So there's actually 4 different things that we can do.
But it's complaint-based. Okay.
Right.
At
It's
the
not
discretion
that-
of the
Yeah, we
officer.
can't actually just kind of be driving through the village and say,
Your dog's barking.
your dog's barking. Usually it's complaint-based. It's kind of like fireworks is another one too. Loud noise, those are all pretty much complaint-based.
Junk vehicles, grass, ice and snow, all of it starts with a complaint.
Okay.
Chris, I have one question, before we move to pass this. 23.7, giving animal as prize or inducement prohibited.
I know we had discussed that one. There's actually has been in different municipalities, where, say for instance, they're having some type of event and they're giving away a black lab. there's like hunting, different things where they give away dogs at benefits and things like that. So we would probably prevent that.
How does this affect a Midway carnival? With
Goldfish?
Goldfish.
I brought that up.
You
Yeah,
brought it up?
Last
Yeah.
time, I
Yeah,
brought
we
that
talked
up,
about
yeah,
that.
about goldfish, because,
It would
How
still
do
make
you-
it illegal. That's
Yeah.
what we talked about.
Yeah.
It would make it illegal.
Well, I guess.
It'd be officer discretion.
at the officer's discretion. I mean, I remember homecoming years ago, those were shooters with beers. I mean, and not that I did that, but but that's how it was. I mean,
So-
it was horrifying, but, I mean, that's,
When
I'm
did
sorry.
you
at a
start
certain-
drinking? At what age?
At what age did I start drinking? Well, the drinking age was 21 when I was growing up. But in Hortonville homecoming, I'll be honest, it was horrifying watching people at a certain time of night down the fish went with the beer.
Oh, yeah.
And I can see where this would be
I
a
do
problem.
recall that.
You know what I mean? This would help, not that,
Oh, she's right.
it was horrible.
Right.
Don't you remember this?
Well,
Poor fish. I know.
You
Yeah.
know
Well,
that
they're not gonna last much longer than that night anyway,
that's-
so.
that's a slippery slope. I mean, you have a fish fry every Friday night. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just a question, you know, I mean,
that's
you
the
catch
thing,
fish
it's
in the
alive.
lake,
Are
you
you
grab a
eating them
hook.
dead or are
I mean,
you
you
eating them
hook
alive?
them and
But going
drag them out
back
of the water. I mean,
to, you're at
it's,
the homecoming, you're at the midway, and you win a goldfish. So now it's illegal, so it's at the discretion. And I get where, you know, Peter, he does the homecomings now. So, I mean, that's what and I said, like I said, it was horrifying, but, ugh, makes me gag.
Wisconsin Rural Water Association, at the spring conference where we get credits, they give away a lab every year.
Really?
Yeah. Sportsman's raffle.
It's a raffle. though,
It's a
right?
raffle though.
Yeah, that's different. So I'll make a motion to approve O-5-20, reference the animal chapter 23.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. F, O-6-20, Parks Chapter 19.
Same thing is going on with that. We have people hanging out in the parks late at night. It'll give basically a curfew for the parks until 10 o'clock at night, unless we have, you know, some type of event in there or something like that. I talked to Carl about
Yeah.
posting signs. We could get, you know, signs that are posted that the park will close at 10 o'clock and be back open in the morning, so. I think it's 5 a.m. until 10 p.m. that it's open.
Yeah. This is another one Chris did a good job on, got a lot of hours in looking this over.
It prevents people from using our bathrooms and stuff like that as, like showering areas and stuff, so. We got a lot of people that are homeless that we're finding in parks and, things like that, so.
I know that there are people fishing at Veterans Park before 5 a.m. I don't know if that's gonna be an issue. I mean, obviously, it's only complaint based. They walk down there with their fishing poles, anyone gonna call the cops.
They're fishing. We're basically, we're using this for people who are hanging out in parks all night long.
Okay.
We got cars that are coming from, you know, different areas and they're sitting in Miller Park, they're sitting in Alonzo
Yeah.
Park, they're sitting back by the canoe launch and things like that, so.
Okay, so you're looking for a motion for that one?
Yes.
I'll make a motion to approve O-6-20, Parks Chapter 19.
second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. G, social media records, social archive.
Basically, we currently are not in compliance with state record laws when it comes to social media on Village's side. Basically, it's a company that, Social Archive is a company that has called a few times to us, and every time I've advised David that it's pointless because of the cost for the village to incur. After the conversation this time, I just decided that it's better to have put it on someone else and have an approved ruling on your guys' behalf on whether we want to pay for someone to archive our social media records. Basically, when we put something out there and someone comments on it, and we respond to it, that's all records that we need to have kept. So at 7 o'clock at night, if someone writes something and then we respond to it, and they don't want to look like an idiot because they said something, asking a question or something, and they pull it off and it deletes our comment, we're liable for that. So we can get sued over losing that record. Basically is what the risk is.
How much?
It's $2,300 a year for 1,000 messages a month. So if we exceed that, it would probably push us up into the next category, which I don't know what the price is there. But yeah.
I asked
You
you-
can move it, you can always move it to a different drive and just keep it on a different drive. That's what we did at state level.
Right.
We just archive it in a different drive. Why don't we do that? We can archive it ourselves.
Because you can't.
Why?
Because there's no, then you're paying someone to work 24/7. Because every single time that someone comments on a question, we have to archive it right away so that that person doesn't delete their comment and that
It's not
record's
really
gone.
lost,
But-
right?
Yeah, but you're not
Yeah, you can
responding
stick
till the next day.
You can post
That's
something.
not true.
Tell me Facebook
You're
can't-
sitting at
No,
home and responding to these at
I'm
night?
not
Can't get it from
constantly,
Facebook?
but between the people who actually run it, like David, Jane, and myself, sometimes, yeah, we'll respond at 7 o'clock at night to people who are asking questions that are important. We want to answer them right away so they don't feel like,
Or we get a hello question
right,
mark.
right.
Okay.
So
So you can always archive it the next day though?
unless
Separate.
they delete it.
If
What?
And
they,
it doesn't necessarily,
Unless what?
unless they delete it. And the other issue is, it might not even be us responding. So if someone else responds, and it's a question based on what we posted, and they ask a question, someone else outside of our office responds to them, that's still a record we have to keep.
like I've responded to someone if they've asked a question on a village post, and they ask a question, and I'm like, well, I have this answer, and I give an answer. And then if they delete their initial question, my answer goes away, and their question goes away, but the initial post is there, but there's no way to just, there's no, like, we can't run a cycle of backing that up constantly. And but I think that's a ridiculous price that they're asking for, and as a whole, the village doesn't delete stuff.
We don't
Right.
delete, we don't offer suggestions, we put information out, basically to
Yeah.
be a useful piece of media for the villagers.
Yeah.
We don't sarcasm, we don't offer sarcasm, we don't critique, we just,
Yeah, no.
you know.
I mean, if we were in a habit of constantly deleting, I'd be a little more worried about that, but this is such a rare situation. I think we take that off of your shoulders.
You know, and the other
Make a
thing
decision.
too, Nathan, is 7 o'clock at night, you should not be answering these. You should be in relaxation mode, okay?
I
You know,
usually don't
what time
respond
does
at
your
night,
cocktail hour
but
start?
Jane sometimes does, and same with David.
Guilty.
I usually am like,
Yeah,
Pretty
Right.
liquored up by now.
well, you know, I would change your voice operandi.
right.
Some of my better answers are low when it's cocktail hour.
I know, I agree with that. That I would agree with.
I just think it's such a rare occurrence that, and if somebody deletes their comment because, or their question because they feel stupid that it's out there, or they change their mind, they're the one who'd be looking for that.
Right, well, there's also, you know, if two people get in an argument
Yeah,
over it, someone escalates and says something they shouldn't, and the next person, the next day looks at it, trying to print it off to maybe, depending if it was a threat
Yeah.
or something, we're liable for that.
Yeah, that's what
That's-
because
so-
they started hounding me first.
Right.
And they've been hounding me for months
Mhm.
to, you know, Grand Chute's got it, you know, Greenville's got it, blah, blah, blah. All these different agencies have it. So Nathan and I had this chat and we were talking about how we are responsible for. So if we have like, and Facebook, this is all about Facebook, okay? So page manager at night, somebody sends me a message, you know, dog's barking next door, it's been barking for the last 5 hours. Okay, I'll send an officer over. You know, so I'm responding back to them. But if they delete that and they take that message away, somehow this social archive is telling us that we are responsible for that and that we could be sued.
I'd like to know how many people have actually sued over that. You know, and the other thing I'd like to know, are these the same people that tell me that my car warranty is running out? I mean, I feel like they don't make money unless.
There has been a
There's
few
been, yes.
cases
Oh,
which
really?
they bring up all the time, but it's very rare when
Rare.
it happens. I
Yeah.
agree, and that's
Yeah.
why my first instinct, the first 2 times they've had calls with me is, we're too small, it's pointless for us, and the village board is not interested.
And if something's getting escalated out there,
Right.
I would hope, especially on the PD, if something's getting escalated out there, somebody who has access to that social is maybe screenshotting that to have record of it, so that if this does become an issue.
But it's a simple thing. So apparently the situation that he gave to me, or they have 2 people that, but the situation was as that a girl put a picture of a dog on Facebook, and it had its nose duct taped, okay? So, and apparently she thought it was funny, so we went back and forth and everything, and they figured out where she lived, okay? Then they put this dog's muzzle duct taped onto the police department's Facebook page, or contacted the police department via Facebook page. They weren't even involved in it, they knew nothing of it, she didn't even live there, it sounds like they even had the wrong agency. But then people, I mean, in a matter of minutes, this Facebook page blew up.
I can
And
imagine.
people were deleting, and people were back and forth, and there's just no way for this agency to
What's
catch
that?
up.
Recover.
Yeah,
You can set it on your Facebook account. It says that you can set it so that it recovers, you can't lose it. You can seek it out even if it's been deleted.
Okay,
yeah,
So
Facebook
you
doesn't
just have
actually
to-
delete.
It doesn't actually
everything is
delete
there.
it. You can go to, log into your Facebook account, click messages, and you can set a setting so that it archives it internally, so you don't have to.
Right.
Pay a
it's for
service.
messaging.
Messaging.
No,
Yeah.
it's the page, your wall.
I've looked into it, and it doesn't necessarily count into it. And
yeah.
it doesn't, because that's how I've been doing it, is I've been exporting our page every month or so. But basically, it only grabs a certain amount of information.
yes, I've
They're
tried.
not, they don't store all of that information constantly.
So did that little city?
Facebook probably has
They
it,
did.
Yeah,
correct,
Facebook, yeah.
but they probably won't give it out to us.
Hundreds
That's
of
the
thousands,
issue.
they said.
But if it came to a lawsuit, a
They probably
subpoena
still
could be
would.
given to Facebook to get it? I mean, if,
Basically,
How would argue
otherwise
against
the
it when they
lawsuits
did?
wouldn't have been happening in some of these places.
yeah.
That's the issue, is Facebook won't give that information back out if they even have it. They have partials, but not every single thing of certain things, like, I don't know. That's,
Be cheaper to get rid of Facebook.
They probably own social archives.
So we
Right.
run the risk of being sued if somebody,
in a very rare
in a very
case
rare situation, or we cave and pay 20-something hundred a year.
for their life.
For their basic
But I
service.
think
Yeah.
I think
Right.
that there's different things out there. A social archive is just one company that has been. and
That's the one
my-
the state uses, is social archive, so
Right.
that's
yeah.
why they're calling
Is
constant.
that for the library and the PD and us?
I don't know.
Or is that just for one?
I have one phone call.
Is it all for all social media sites?
I don't think it would matter as long as it doesn't.
Yeah, because
exceed
eventually I
the
would hope the
post.
village would go into Twitter and Instagram. I mean, there's other ways that people seek
Right.
information. I've been finding more on Twitter than Facebook in the last couple months.
Is this something we could table and get
I-
some more
I
information?
think
on?
Give it
so.
a year.
Yeah.
No, really, give it a
Yeah.
year and see what happens. I mean, the rarity, as Nathan just pointed
Yeah.
out, it doesn't justify the cost.
No, I don't think so either. It'd
No.
be nice to just put a disclaimer on Facebook, on our webpage that said something that we don't,
We're not liable for,
where we are not archiving this and doing a 10 to or something.
Now you have
I wouldn't
the
do
answer.
that.
That might make it worse.
You're right,
The
that might
state
make
would
it
come down
worse.
on us.
Yeah.
I wouldn't make any mention at all.
Yeah.
Right.
I wouldn't tell them we are, and I wouldn't tell them we're not.
Yeah.
Just leave them guess.
The next time you
Have
call
you-
Nathan, you have an answer that I took it to our board and they've decided to table it.
Wait.
Or
Yeah,
defer
that's
it.
all
I
I
should say
wanted.
to defer
I
it,
don't
because we
care
don't wanna
what
make
you
a
guys
motion to bring it
decide.
back.
I just didn't want it to, something to happen and then it go back to me.
No.
We need a motion to table it.
Can there also
Well,
be
we
something
defer
on
it.
there
We're
to
not
take it
tabling
off of
Tabling it means we need to make a motion to bring
U3
it back.
for monitoring it after work hours?
We defer it.
Because isn't there a way to say respond during?
Yes,
Call.
but I think, I don't know. I mean, we don't have to respond, we do it because of the fact that we wanna make it seem so that the community has correct questions, we're there to answer them.
Which
The
is
Opera
wonderful,
House is
but-
set up, that I have an
But
automatic
it's not
reply.
like we're mandatory asked to, it's not like David asked us, well, make sure you monitor it, or
Well,
anything like
just-
that.
I
Just
understand
because
that,
you
but-
answer
Right.
during the day, they can still turn around 2 seconds later and delete it at 8 o'clock in the morning.
Right.
So what's the difference?
Yeah.
Yeah, and you
8
would never
o'clock
know.
at night, 8 o'clock in the morning, you aren't on there 24/7.
I
Right.
view it as a public service. It's something, and usually when they're soliciting, they're looking for an answer.
Yeah, it's usually pretty quick. like,
Yeah.
I get
how do
immediate,
You
I
know,
get immediate alert on my phone when I.
I would put some kind of verbiage on there that said our office hours are blah, 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 which they should already see.
Please
And we will
call.
respond to your
Yeah.
concerns.
That's how the Opera House is set up. They
And
get
that,
an
you know,
instant reply
To
that
be
tells them
fair
the
to
office
all
hours
of
and the
you.
phone number for the
Yeah.
village office.
Right.
Either
So they set
that,
up.
or we give you on-call pay.
But there are times
Yeah.
where, there are times where, we have emergency going on that it would fall outside of normal hours too.
But then, I mean,
used
my,
it.
maybe I'm not doing Facebook that much. If I have an emergency, I would call the emergency number and not put it on Facebook. I know,
You'd be
I know,
surprised.
I know, but I just hate to think
Last year's
that-
storm, it was used a lot. There was a lot of interaction on the storm last year, July. We were using it as an information thoroughfare.
We didn't have power, so that
Don't
was
have
how you
power,
were, they
there's
were.
no
I get that
Yeah.
in those situations. I get that.
I think because we are not out there deleting our own content, and the risk is so low right now, I think if I need to make a motion, or somebody needs to make a motion to defer this to a later date.
We don't need to do
No.
that.
No.
He can just reply to them.
Yeah.
And you know what? And if it happens, we'll discuss it then.
Yeah,
I-
Yeah.
But, you know, the rarity of it, as Nathan
Rare.
pointed out.
and they're not deleting stuff. They're,
Yeah.
yeah, you
Right.
guys are keeping it and letting people, yeah,
Primarily our posts are information based.
yep.
I mean, it's-
Okay.
Okay,
All
moving on.
right. Let's then move on to H, wastewater treatment plant SBR blower purchase.
We had an aeration blower fell at the wastewater plant, in between meetings. I had to make an emergency decision on ordering a new one. This is a motion to make that official, the payment for that. The replacement component cost $9,200.89, and it was something I had to get in right away. Equipment replacement fund monies will be used to pay for it. I've got a little note on here that, the part of the budget for the sewer utility, we put $37,918 into a reserve account specifically designed to cover costs like this. And our current balance at the beginning of this year was $327,315 in there. So again, DNR typically authorizes these purchases. So we got their authorization for it, and I'm just looking to get the board to make a motion to approve it as a final gesture to approve the use of equipment replacement fund reserve monies for this unit.
I'll make a motion to approve the wastewater treatment plant SBR blower purchase in the amount of $9,200.18.
89.
Wow.
Not bad.
Second,
Roll call. Dan?
aye.
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 I,
Aye.
Motion carried. I, approval of reserve fund use for police truck outfitting.
This is just, to get your guys' approval, she wanted to use the reserve fund for PD equipment for the outfitting of the truck out of the 8,000 that was up. This is the same 8,000 that was approved last week.
Right.
She just wants to use $3,915.41 for it. Right.
Was there anything in our packet on that? I just
I just handed it out.
that's what you handed out, okay?
Yep, and it shows, what the balance was beginning, and then when we did that transfer in early part of this year, I'm combining a few accounts, and then that's what it would be at the end,
Okay,
after this, so it'd be at zero.
This is all done already, that we're just figuring out where the money's gonna come from, or is this additional?
No,
Okay.
this is what you guys approved last week, it's already done, it's already paid for, she just wants to instead use,
some of the reserve funds for it.
Motion to approve the, transfer of funds from reserve fund for, squad car outfitting.
I'll second that.
Roll call. Dan?
Aye.
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 Motion carried. J O-7-20, emergency calls.
I'll take that one. Again, when we're working through the ordinances, another one that's coming through is the use of 911. That one was in the packet. Does everybody have a copy of that? Okay. So basically, just looking for approval so that we can issue an ordinance violation. The fine amount would be $218.50. It's on the back of this one.
So we currently have an ordinance that, this is just no, we don't have an ordinance, okay. And this situation has come up, I'm assuming, where somebody's calling
Not very often.
No?
Normally, the 911 calls that you're seeing on the monthly reports are dials and stuff like that. Say for instance, you have, every once in a while, you'll get somebody, doesn't happen very often, but at least you have something there who is misusing calling 911 for not 911 situations, or falsifying that it's a 911 situation. It really isn't an emergency.
So you're looking for a motion for this?
Yes.
Okay. I will make a motion to approve O-7-20 ordinance amending chapter 9.02, use of emergency calls regulated.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Are we gonna have to wait for Peter? Or just,
I think we have quorum.
I think we have a quorum, I think
You can
she
skip it.
okay,
just notes when he came and left.
then we will go ahead. K O-8-20, firing of weapon.
Again, going through the ordinance books, there's nothing. We had another incident where we had a gentleman who fired an AR-15 3 times in the air in a subdivision in the village. We don't have an ordinance stating that he can't do that. So this ordinance is that of Grand Chute and Seymour. We pretty much all have the same ordinances. We, as a village right now, have a lot of ordinances that Grand Chute has. However, this one we don't have. So this is basically, number one is discharging of a firearm regulated. No person except for law enforcement shall fire or discharge a firearm, rifle, spring gun, air gun, pellet gun, under his control in the village. It says hunting prohibited, but hunting in the village is prohibited, but the chief may sign off on if somebody wants to come. We had that ordinance in Cheyenne. So say for instance, find somebody, Bob Sorensen, let's use him. He's got that big huge property all in the woods and everything else. So if he wanted to hunt on that property, all he would have to do is make a phone call and say, hey, can I hunt on my property? And we'd say yes. However, we had other incidents in Cheyenne where people wanted to hunt on their property. It was big enough, but they were totally surrounded. So we kind of gave them some stipulations of what and how they could hunt. This guy wanted to hunt in a tree stand. So we basically went out, we surveyed, the land, looking at it to see if we thought it was safe enough for him to actually fire a weapon in the village, and it was determined that, yeah, it would be, but he would have to be on the ground. So it gives us as a village a little bit of input for people doing that.
So is this recent that somebody was shooting an AR-15 in the air? Was that on here or is that a different one? What is it listed under?
I think it was listed as,
I'm trying to find something that doesn't, that normally isn't
I
done
think it was,
here.
I think it came out as a suspicious incident. Is what it came out as.
So okay, so I have a number of issues with this, I read through this one. Isn't there already a restriction for hunting? As county DNR or something, you have to have a certain size property, no? I was under the assumption that if you have a certain size property, you can bow hunt on it inside the village limits.
Inside the village limit, yes.
So we're gonna put an additional restriction on that, saying that now we have to go to the police department and get approval for something that
Well,
we're
not
already allowing?
necessarily. If the state says that they can do it, then they can do it. This is
But not
just-
if we put a municipal.
Right, so if you have somebody who's got an acre and they wanna hunt on it, then at least we have the ability to say yes or no, that they can or can't.
Well, I think that gets a little confusing, that one governing body is saying, this is the regulation if it's this size, but then we're going to go and say, okay, that's fine, but you have to ask for permission from us first. So I think that's confusing, because somebody's gonna look it up, and they're gonna say, and I say this because the property that is 2 houses over from me, where the creek is large enough that you can actually bow hunt on that according to the DNR and the state, right? But you can't discharge a firearm, but you can bow hunt on it, right? Because I knew the guy who lived back there, who had purchased that for a while, and his plan was to, because there's a lot of deer that run through there, so his plan was to bow hunt from a tree stand. But he did the research and found that out. Now, if we pass an ordinance that says you have to ask for permission, he's gonna go and look it up from the DNR or from the state and say, yeah, he can do it, and then he's gonna go do it and get in trouble from the village.
Number 6 allows him to hunt on his property for archery.
Okay, because you just
Yeah.
said that
That was
they would have to ask for
firearms.
permission to hunt.
Firearms.
That was firearms.
Firearms.
No, I'm talking bow.
Yeah,
archery.
but she meant firearms, I think.
And
Because I think archery.
Well, firearms, I didn't think there was any ability to hunt with a firearm within the village limits.
Well, I don't know about that. Is there something on the lake about the east end of the lake?
Yeah, there's
Or
something
not?
around the
Yeah, there
perimeter of the lake.
Is there
Yeah, because
existing,
we get guys that call every year duck hunting, and they wanna know, because they're asking permission, if they can hunt on the river, or on the lake.
because at one time there was a dotted line across the
Right.
lake. Is that still on the ordinance or not?
We,
I made a map a long time ago before you started.
yeah,
It's 250 feet from, a duck hunter has to be 250 feet away from someone's property.
from a
So-
structure.
It doesn't leave much of the lake.
No.
No, that's from property, I believe. Or it might be structure.
Yeah, it is structure.
I'm just wondering, is that gonna be left in there? Left in the orange, but just,
I don't think do we have regulation over the lake? I don't think we do.
Yeah, we do.
Mhm.
Yeah, we do.
Do we?
Yeah.
Yeah, same as.
If it's within the village
there
limits.
was something, I just can't,
Not
I
that
don't
we're
know if
talking
they ever
about.
got
Yeah,
pulled
there
over or
was
not, but it
something
was written
on
in
it.
ordinances.
Right.
Yeah.
This has been controversy for years.
So,
So Jim's question, does F cover that?
Looks like it should.
well,
Or
I,
not.
Or does B need to be revised to say hunting within the village is prohibited with a firearm? I mean, so a firearm is different than archery.
yeah, I would
Right,
be in
six is-
favor of
six is
that with the change to the definition of firearm. So I read through this whole thing, I have a number of issues that I don't really, I can't sign off on with this. Firearms are, they're gunpowder based. They have a high velocity projectile, right? Spring gun, an air powered pneumatic pellet gun. I mean, my daughter has got a little plastic pellet BB gun, right? And when the squirrels are in the feeder, they, and they can't hit them. They hit the feeder and scare the squirrels, right? But my neighbor, I mean, the way that this is written, you can't have a paintball, you can't have a slingshot, you can't have a BB gun, you can't have a pellet gun, you can't have an air powered. You can't have literally any, I mean, some of these things that are listed in here, you can do more damage with a baseball. So, I mean, I think lumping in a spring powered gun, which is a BB gun, an air powered gun, and a pneumatic pellet gun in with a rifle or a shotgun or something like that is an overreach. I know that you didn't write this and Grant Shute wrote it, but I still think that's a significant overreach. And that's more babysitting. We should have an ordinance that says you can't fire a firearm above a certain caliber in the village, right? I mean, you look at what the caliber for a pellet gun is and then say anything over that. It's pretty, what is it, .177 or something like that for a BB gun or for a pellet gun. Then
My husband's got a pellet gun and that thing shoots 500 yards.
I would love to see that.
And
Because
that's
my
not- I mean, it's
my
a BB
270 barely shoots 500 yards.
It's a BB gun and it shoots 500 yards.
Yeah, my 270 caliber barely shoots 500 yards. So if you can shoot you would have to have so much velocity behind you. You couldn't shoot a BB gun that far. A shotgun can't shoot a BB that far. So the other things I have of issue with this is the archery regulations on F towards a structure on the property, right? In the definition here. So if you're practicing your bow hunting, right, and you set up some hay bales and a target, this is basically a killer right here, because very few people would possess a property that is structured in a way that they would have enough distance that they could actually practice shooting a bow while shooting at one of their structures. Because most properties go like this way and the house goes this way and you only have a short distance. I can do it from my yard and I could shoot 30 feet. But at 30 feet, I'm gonna go right through the target and hit my house with a decent bow. My next door neighbor, he's a New London police officer. He sets up his target. He bow hunts every year. He sets up his target in his backyard and he sits there and he shoots for a couple of hours a night while he practices. I think this minimum, also in that same, in F, it also says a minimum of 250 yards downrange you would have to not shoot at a structure. That's a pretty big stretch. So basically F, if you put those two things in there, says you can't shoot a bow in the village. You can't practice a bow, you can't shoot a bow, you can't do anything with a bow that isn't a rubber tipped. And I think that's, I think that there should be rules. I mean, you can't shoot at people, obviously. You can't shoot at somebody else's dog or cat or anything like that, but there are rules against that. If you shoot and you have a stray shot that you miss the target and it hits your neighbor's property and does damage, you're liable for that damage already. I don't see where it's our responsibility to tell people you can't do this on your own property if you're being responsible. And even if you're being irresponsible, then you have to pay the consequences. I mean, and G says throwing or shooting of arrows, stones, or other missile projectiles. So, I mean, telling a little kid you can't have a slingshot. I got my son a little 15-pound compound bow. It will shoot an arrow about 25 yards. And after that, I could put my hand up and it wouldn't go through, it wouldn't pierce my hand at 25 yards, right? That's 75 feet. I set up a target in the backyard. I put some pillows in a big cardboard box and I let him shoot at it. I mean, this would make the village coming in saying, you can't do that even on your own property. And I don't agree with that.
So I think of the proximity, Jim, like your subdivision, some of your yards are wider, some of them are narrow. Our yard is super deep. We have a full acre where we're at.
Mm-hmm.
So like some of this I look at and go, well, that would be doable in my yard because I don't live so close. But I think of some of the yards, especially some of the homes that were built around the turn of the century.
Towards my house, my backyard now, I wouldn't want them shooting my direction.
That's the worry I have, is not so much that, I fear that because some of these yards are fairly small. I think of some of these older neighborhoods where you don't have much there.
Well, do we have a problem with somebody shooting at your house or somebody shooting out over there? I mean,
I know the judge shoots, so.
If somebody though were shooting next door to me, I would be concerned. My children probably wouldn't, especially when they're younger, wouldn't have been able to go outside.
I mean, you can go down to the archery range and see all the holes in the ceiling. I don't like the idea of somebody behind me shooting arrows in my direction. I mean, if they shot over the fence, all bets would be off then.
I just feel like if you have the property and have the size of yard, that's one thing, but
that's why it needs to be that 250. It's 250 yards, but we could probably compromise 250 feet or something.
Well, I think we're looking to regulate being responsible. And I don't think that that's really our place to be.
250 yards is.
I mean, that's
2.5
why
football
you
field.
ran for the
Yeah.
board.
I mean, who's got that much space from their yard inside the village limits? I mean,
That's
there's
like
probably
shooting
3 or
across
4
town.
houses, or maybe a dozen, but they're gonna be right on the outskirts, and that doesn't apply to anybody else. And basically, F says you cannot, basically, it comes right down, F says, for the most part, in the overwhelming majority of the village, you cannot fire a bow and arrow. You cannot practice, you cannot target practice, you can't do anything. Even if you're being responsible, unless you put up a structure, well, most people can't put up a structure. And they're not gonna shoot directly at their house because most lots aren't made up in a way that they could do that. So it comes down to, legislating people being responsible. I have no problem with firearms, what the classic interpretation of what a real firearm would be. People shouldn't be shooting them, with the exception of the police, or special circumstances. They shouldn't be discharging a firearm in the village. But I don't consider a BB gun a firearm. I mean, I don't give my 8-year-old a shotgun to shoot. I mean, but I will give him a BB gun and set up a target in the backyard and let him shoot it.
So Jim, it'd be okay to shoot not at your own home, like facing your own home, but you could face like your neighbor's house. I guess that's where, I think that's what I need to get defined here. So any structure, it's not just your own structure. So I just want to make sure, because if we're gonna do any kind of target practice in our yard, I would have it pointing towards my home so that there's a stopping point at my own home, and I take that risk.
Somebody else's.
But if I have it going towards my neighbor's house, then I'm endangering their safety. So I just need to understand I guess I need to understand where you're going on that.
Well, I'm saying that we're not putting restrictions that are reasonable. Even, I don't like the idea of putting restrictions on somebody practicing target practice with a bow. If you buy a target, the bow is typically not going to go through the target. Right? If you set up a target, you're not in, and by the time you hit a target and you go through a target, it's not going that far.
If you hit the target.
Yes,
Or you miss
correct.
the target.
But
Yeah,
again,
you
you're
miss the
talking,
target.
you're talking about
Right.
the law enforcement or us or legislating responsibility. And we're not talking about this is a big problem.
But if
We're
somebody
talking
gets
about
hurt, it's too
let's,
late.
well,
but
if somebody gets
is
hurt.
doing target practice,
I mean, somebody gets
archery,
hurt.
target practice.
My neighbor plays catch with a baseball, right? With his 6-year-old
No,
son.
but we're talking about an
And
arrow that could be,
that baseball will do just as much damage if it hits my 11-year-old in the head.
People use arrows to kill animals every year.
They do.
I
And
just
they're a
fear-
dangerous weapon. I don't want somebody shooting something that could kill my kids or my neighbor's kids, just because they got a right to shoot in their backyard. They don't have a right to go over the fence with the arrow. They don't have a right to kill somebody else's dog or kids. If
I
they don't
agree.
have enough room to shoot, then they should go to an archery range.
I agree, but this is not a reasonable amount this is not reasonable. 250 yards is not reasonable.
What is it, 250 feet better? That would be coming in line with the duck hunting. I mean, because we're shooting a shotgun at 250 feet. That's the rural way.
Yes.
Yards is a long ways. That is a
Yeah,
long
that
ways.
is, that is a
Yeah,
long
it
way.
is.
I mean, that's,
I don't know, you might have 250 feet between you and your neighbor, right, in the back?
well, I would never say anything to my neighbors anyway, but my yard might be 250, I haven't measured it. But my lot is long, along with my house, and it's very long in the back, but it's probably just shy of 250.
Where the judge shoots in his backyard, he's got 250 feet. So, it's not all inclusive, but I just don't like the idea of somebody living on a third of an acre shooting arrows my direction. I mean,
Or anybody's
we've got
direction.
that's a deadly weapon. People get killed by them all the time.
Yep. Well, they don't typically,
I can
you're
get
not gonna
my-
practice with that type of a,
It doesn't
That
matter
type
if
of
it's
an
just a
arrow.
pointed one,
yeah.
that still messes
So
you
the
up.
AR-15
yeah.
incident, chief, was this just somebody goofing around, or was this something, I mean, I don't need to know all the details, but what leads somebody to shoot an AR-15 up in the air within the village limits? What gave them that feeling that it was okay to do that?
Alcohol.
I would imagine, but this is where I look at, if they could have seen this, would they, well, I'm within, 250 feet up in the air, I didn't shoot towards anything, I shot it up in the air. What gave them that feeling that an AR-15 was okay to shoot within the village limits? Because it's not okay.
But in our village, it is okay.
Yeah, but it's not
But-
okay.
Right. I mean, I think it was a warning shot, is what it was, 3 warning shots.
Hmm.
Well, but
I can't give you a whole lot of information. but-
because there are neighbor disputes, there are things that go on, and I can see somebody that's a neighbor, that, somebody picks up now target practice because it irritates my neighbor. I've seen people do it. I've seen people do stranger things just to irritate somebody. And
And there's people, common sense is, not everybody's got it.
no,
There are too many talking points here to resolve anything tonight. So I would ask that we maybe just table it, and Jim, you have some serious concerns we could bring back to another meeting. Maybe you come up with some ideas.
Okay.
The 250 yards is
it's long.
gone. 250 feet is fine, and maybe if they're gonna shoot in the backyard, maybe it's in bales of straw up against their garage, not out in the open back lot. I don't know, those are just ideas, so. I mean, we could sit here all night,
Yeah.
because you've got 7 or 8 different points here.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I do have a
okay.
question though. Are there municipalities that require like a permit so that they're under the understanding of what the rules are and they have permission? So let's say someone like Jim comes along and says, I'd like to do target practice in my backyard. Okay, great. Here's the permit. You filled it out.
Like a fire permit.
Like a permit. No different than when people get a permit, then they understand that they have to be 30 feet from a structure. They've got to do that. I just think then there's an understanding that if somebody doesn't have that permit,
To me, the ordinances kind of do that, and
Yeah.
if you give a permit to somebody, you're assuming some kind of liability on
Okay.
it.
I thought of a burning permit is really what I thought of. It kind of lays out those ground rules.
Well, again, let's table this so we can move on. Otherwise, we're gonna be
We'll make a
on
motion
this till
to,
probably midnight.
How do we
Defer it.
resolve it though? Where should
We'll
it go
resolve
from
it
here?
later when he comes up with some other
I
ideas.
say
So
we
will
bring
you
it to
talk
public
with-
safety.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay,
Let's
Push-
do a
we'll push
public
out the
safety meeting
and-
yep,
and
Okay.
go from there.
so we need a motion to defer it.
no.
Tabling means we have to bring it back. We have to make a motion to bring it back.
Well, it's gonna go to public safety first.
Okay,
So let them come
so
to
no
us.
action.
Public Safety Committee,
Defer it to
right.
public safety committee.
Yes, I
defer it to
believe
public
public
safety.
safety is the answer.
Okay,
So we'll set up a meeting.
I'm a woman,
Okay.
I'm stupid.
okay. Jim, are you on that committee?
And I have a
Yeah.
line of people that shoot me,
Perfect.
yes.
Yeah, so you and Chris can agree to set up a meeting.
Okay.
Okay.
We'll have to
Jeremy
figure out
has
some
been
downrange for my 105 houses.
That's a whole grid square.
Oh, that's a path he didn't want to walk down.
Okay,
We'll then move to L, award 2020 Briggs Street, Birch Street, and Lincoln Street construction contract.
I'll take that. We had a bid opening today at 11 a.m. This is for the resurfacing of Brick Street, relaying of utilities in the 200 block of Brick Street, the mill and overlay of Birch Street, the 300 block, and the repair of Lincoln Street where we have excessive trench settling. We had, I don't know if everybody has a copy of the bid tab. We had bids range anywhere, the very bottom is the sum total. Well, one line up from the very bottom. Anyways, we had bids range anywhere from 149,134, 149,134, all the way up to 210,865. When I estimated these projects, I was at 140,000, but I see we got like $11,000 just in mobilization and traffic control. These are side streets. I didn't think they would be that expensive for that, but we had budgeted $150,000 towards these projects, so I think we came in right on the money. What we're looking to do is, again, just a motion to award the project money, plus I'm looking, I was discussing with Dan with some other road repairs. 50,000 of this is coming from general fund, and well, 50,000 from general fund, and some of that is from LRIP grant that I got last year. 17,000 of that.
Local road improvement.
The utility's picking up, 100,000 of this. Again, it was a light year. Utility's only gonna spend 110, 150 this year to keep the numbers down, because we got a big project next year. We're doing, Oak Street in front of the school, so that's gonna be in excess of 200-something thousand. Again, I'm looking for a motion to award the bid, to Northeast Asphalt, plus an additional $15,000 of system improvement fund monies, which are utility monies, for additional discretionary pavement repairs.
Is this 100% on the village, or is any of this accessible to the owners on these?
For repairs, we don't assess.
Repairs, we don't,
If
okay.
it's a major road reconstruct, where we go down and we, take the base out and
Okay.
all that good stuff. The village has a history of not assessing for utility.
I
because
was
we've
asked by
already
a
paid off.
resident, who lives on one of these streets, and I told him I wasn't sure, so I would ask. Okay,
We're looking at assessing Warner Street, that's a different
Yeah.
subject coming up, but that's a major job. These are just repairs, basically mill and overlay. Take care of a couple of our bad streets. I know Birch Street coming into Jim subdivisions get pretty rough there, so we're gonna do that one block stretch. Again, you see the motion I put down below.
All right, I'll make a motion to award 2020 Birch Street and Lincoln Street construction contract to Northeast Asphalt Incorporated in the amount of $149,138.
34.
What's that?
132.
I'm sorry, $149,134 plus an additional $15,000 system improvement fund monies for additional discretionary pavement repairs.
Second.
Roll call. Dan?
Aye.
hi.
Aye.
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 Motion carried.
And Jeannie, you gotta sign some, well, you gotta sign the bid order before you leave.
And then are there any other miscellaneous topics for future discussion?
Oh, we're
We
missing.
got Elm yet.
Oh, sorry, missed M. Warner Street paving project discussion permission.
Yes, I'll start out on that. David's gonna take over. As I stated, we're gonna be doing Oak Street next year during the summer, hopefully, while school's out. The 300 block of Oak Street, pretty much from Cedar Street all the way up through Nash. We're gonna do water, sewer, storm through there, and it's gonna be a big job. We're gonna have that street shut down for probably a month or so. Anyways, with the pricing the way it is with the asphalt and everything, we entertained the idea, well, the school actually reached out to David, but we're looking at possibly doing Warner Street this year, since the pricing is better for asphalt. I'm gonna let David take over from here.
Absolutely. On the bottom of Carl's report that he also handed you, he did the economics on the project yesterday. As you can see, Hortonville Area School District is on the hook for 80.1% of the project, estimated $220,000 project. That told, the school district is on the hook for $176,220 of this project. In refunding TID 2, I believe it was $42,000 and change that the village had to reimburse from the TID 2 funds back to the district. That was a revenue stream that was not expected in this school district year. That calendar year ends July 1 of this year. So with permission, they would like to do a down payment and refund those monies to the village to help offset their expenditure, and then we figure out something on the backside what they would want back. So time is kind of the essence here. They want to do a prepay and put some of the money that we were given to them into this school year, and then figure out how they're going to pay for the rest of it on the backside. So we are asking for permission tonight to potentially expedite this from a 2021 project into a 2020 project. We have funds available. As always, myself, Carl, and Nathan have been working on the economics of this. We have future project funds. Carl would be willing to lend $70,000 from the utility reserves. We could pay for it this year and then reimburse on the backside like we've done for other projects. Like I said, two things. The school district has asked for this because of their funds for the 2020 school year. And then also with the COVID, most of the projects will not be interrupted by traffic, as the school district has canceled most of their activities. We did give a drop dead date August 21st to have to be completed prior to the school district and teachers reporting on the 28th. So,
You have summer school in the, like, they do summer school, they're planning on doing in August this year.
yeah, it's all virtual.
It's all virtual, okay.
This has been already proposed to Dave Whibben with the school board. He's gonna be speaking to the school board on Monday night, for the financial aspects of it. And Todd Timmons gave his blessing as well.
Well,
So,
and Dave's done at the end of June too, so this would be nice to sew this up and
Yep.
be done.
yep,
But it just because of the phasing with Oak Street being done next year, does it give you a thoroughfare around it?
correct.
And,
Yeah.
but, we talked about in February what asphalt prices, we kinda get a hint that they were gonna be down this year. And that's 5.5 inches of mix
Yeah.
on the roadway, so that's a lot of asphalt on the roadway.
Yeah.
Cause it's basically a truck route with the buses.
This could probably be easily a 260,000,
So it's,
270,000.
yeah.
So we had talked about doing on Warner Street at one point, doing lighting and street lighting and all that. Is that part of this, or is that a
No.
totally different
No.
project?
That's another separate fund we're building up.
Okay, cause I know we talked about doing better
It wasn't Warner Street
lighting.
as much as it was town and Oak.
Okay.
The school is also planning on potentially a redesign of back entrances and exits to
Mhm.
offset some of the issues with parking and
Yeah.
entrance. So that's on one of their master planning.
Okay, so you're just looking for permission or a motion?
We're looking for permission to put it out to bid. We essentially have an estimate of $220,000, but until we get a firm number, we can't. And then we come back with a solidified number, just like we did for Birch, Briggs, as well as Lincoln Street.
And
We
that
gotta
can be
make it
all done?
official. Yep.
Okay.
So we need permission to put it out to bid.
Motion to put Warner Street paving, and utility, well, there'll be some manual adjustments and everything. Put it out to solicit bids for that project.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried.
The assessment money will go back into future projects, so we're not really losing anything. We're just expediting it up by 1 year. And
Just so you're aware, also with the economics and the breakdown, the village is on the hook for 3.1% of the project, which equates to $6,820. Essentially covers the intersection of town and Warner Street.
We'll now move to any other miscellaneous topics for future discussion.
Do we have anything coming up on the projected, Main Street stuff? Anytime soon? We had paid to have somebody do us up some plans for what they were gonna do with the bypass and,
Oh, we have, those have been delivered.
okay,
Those are, yeah. That was for a grant that we did not receive.
okay,
So we have those, and what we did with those is that those got converted to East Central Regional Planning, and they're putting them into our outside park and comprehensive plan. So if more opportunities for grants come available, that's part of the plan that's written in the plan, so that we can use it right out of our comprehensive planning. So which most grants require that it's listed as one of ours are outdated, so East Central, that was part of another expenditure we paid them to upgrade the comprehensive plan, correct?
yeah, we got kind of a 50% grant on
The
that.
park plan, yep. Okay.
We'll now move to 9, report of village officials. B, clerk treasurer.
We watched a webinar this morning, Nathan and I, on the CARES sub-grant overview for election expenses that was caused by the coronavirus. Sounds like we just have to submit the paperwork, they automatically send us the money. It's a $200 allocated funds plus $1.10 per registered voter, so it comes out to be about $1,800 and $1,815. So we have plenty of expenses too. We have to show that we've used at least those amount of expenses, and we have those. We received a dividend from the League of Municipalities, Wisconsin municipalities, in the amount of $6,079. So that was an unexpected revenue.
Could you, Jane, could you tell them the economics of what we've received in the last 14 years? I think that's instrumental on there. In the last 14 years, I think we
have
received.
received $8,934.
Okay, so where I'm going with that is projecting is that in the last 14 years, we've only received $8,000 dollars. This year we received 6. So it's trending up, and the conversation I had with the rep is that it's looking as that's gonna be a continual revenue source. The league is doing good things to help out the partners. So,
And then I've submitted all the required paperwork to discontinue the CDBG Housing Revolving Loan Fund Program. The check is in the amount of $136,850.52. That will be on the next invoice run and sent out next week. And I've submitted the ballot quantities to Outagamie County for the August 11th partisan primary. And we should be receiving those ballots by June 24th.
Any questions for Jane? If not, we'll move to C, Director of Public Works.
I just have one. Our annual recycling event, we were kind of hesitant on whether or not to bring it back. I know Jim had mentioned some ideas that I still want to talk to you about for computer recycling and that kind of stuff, but for now, it's looking like we're going to book it for our August 1st, Saturday. Unless you got something you want to talk, I mean, we can talk off to the side about
Okay.
a better way to do it. So
Yeah.
I'm not opposed to some other way.
How popular is the event?
It's pretty popular. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but it's quite a few pounds that end up getting recycled. Quite a few pounds of material.
Okay.
Quite a few. And it doesn't really cost us but about $100 to promote it. Again, we're doing it for the betterment of the Hortonville, not so much to make money or lose money on, but.
and you asked about economics last year. We were paying for trucking and fuel and expenditures. That's what the cost came.
Yeah, I saw like $230 or something like that last year on the expenditure sheet.
How big is your warehouse?
I don't have a warehouse.
You got a pickup truck though, right?
Oh, yeah,
You,
and a trailer.
Is there any
That's
way?
why I'm wondering what kind of volume we're talking about.
You can
I
pick
can
and
get you numbers
choose.
from last year.
And did they take TVs and the other stuff? I think I
I think
saw
pretty much
that
anything.
the
you really
advertisement,
pay 'em to
they
take.
charge for those.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Any chance that shredding could be added to that?
Not a shredding.
Paper,
Oh.
paper shredding?
No, well, no, because we have to pay to have that done as well.
Well, sometimes places will, I just wondered if we could partner with a bank or something to have it the same day. Just a thought. I know that they backed it up quite a bit at the
I'll tell them.
Rattler Station.
I'll bring that up.
Stadium.
I'll have Nathan do it.
Okay.
Doesn't most of that go through our recycle law? Don't you recycle newspaper?
Some but paper shredding, like
Shredding.
documents,
Oh, documents.
you know,
For
some
security.
places have free shredding
Yeah.
once in a while.
Yep.
Just a thought.
Yep.
I don't have anything else unless somebody has something for me.
On Warner Street, that bid, Carl, what about the loops and the controller down
We're gonna stop short of Main Street
there? Okay,
where the radius is. If we go forward, we're gonna stop short of the radius.
okay.
Or where it starts the radius. I don't wanna get into the DOT stuff.
Good.
That's all gonna get fixed up in a couple of years anyways.
I would think so with the reconstruct, okay, for updating with the bypass. Okay.
Yeah. And Town Drive was repaved from the Gilbert side all the way to where the layout machine just can make a straight pass through there. So we're gonna do a little bit on the other side of Town Drive, about 600 square feet if we could go that way, but, no, we're gonna stay away from 15.
Okay.
Just, that would be wasting money.
Any questions for Carl? We're good. Then we will move to D, Police Chief.
I don't have a whole lot. I handed out the monthly report.
What's a fire wire down?
For what?
What is a fire wire down?
That would be like a electrical
Oh, okay.
line down.
Why are the assists so high?
Well, because we had the school district requested our assistants to go and do home checks on the students. So every house that we went to, we had to start a screen for an assist. We have to start a screen with dispatch.
So that would have been like a Sergeant Barr that was already
Yes.
on duty and being
Yes.
paid, okay.
Yes.
Okay,
They were going out probably once every week and a half. He was out on Tuesday, and did 8 or 9 home checks on Tuesday also.
okay, then we will move to E, library director.
I just have a couple things. We are opening on Monday. We are opening in more of a limited capacity, so we've adjusted and rearranged some of our furniture to allow for more social distancing. Jane's son John created cough shields for us out of wood and plexiglass, and they're amazing. We are encouraging masks, but we're not requiring them, because it gets into some tricky legal things if we're requiring things, because not everyone can physically wear one. We're encouraging one person per household, but we understand if that's not always possible. For elderly parents who are being cared for, their children are bringing them to the library, things like that. The high-touch items have been moved or removed, so some of the like toy cars and things that kids naturally put in their face, we have moved them out of the way, which then means that our study room is currently unavailable, because we're using it as storage for all of the things we can't have out in the public right now. As far as summer programming goes, we're not going to have in-person programming this summer, but we are going to increase and do more virtual programming, so story times and things like that. We have a website that the DPI actually purchased, a website subscription for all of the Wisconsin libraries until 2023 that allows us to do virtual summer programming, like logging books, logging hours reading, things like that for online challenges. I'm still trying to figure out the prizes aspect. I know incentives are a big way to get people involved, so still trying to work out some of those little bugs. I'm still working on building the website. It's not my biggest forte, so building a website's a little bit different. So working on that. That should start up about June 15th registration for that, depending on how the website build goes. But that's all I have.
Any questions for Alan?
Do you need a volunteer to help you with the web stuff? I happen to have somebody who,
You do have a web developer, don't you?
I do.
She is a registered volunteer with us.
she is a registered volunteer. I'll get you in touch with her.
Sure.
Because school's ending, she's doing a youth apprenticeship, but
Right.
she'll have time, yeah.
Sure.
She can help you.
Okay.
Nice to see you here, Al.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's been a while.
With all the COVID stuff, I kind of kept a little bit of distance.
We'll move to F, attorney.
Nothing from up.
G, building permit report, and there is none. H, court report, none.
I see nothing.
And then we'll move to A, administrator.
I did have a handout. In regards to economic development, the next presentation from SC Swiderski will be on July 16th. We're not sure what was going to happen with the July 2nd meeting. They will see final engineering. At that meeting, they're hoping to ask for your final approval. They're going to give some time after that meeting. They are hoping that with a couple weeks of review and that final report, that in August, we could possibly start working on a developer's agreement. They have a very cut and dry deadline they want to stick to in order to move the process forward. So more to come on that. Community development, we have had some more meetings with Keller Structures. They are looking at the option of adding on to this building through the library. That deliverable will be coming on we should have those by the 6/25/2020 meeting. Pat, I do want to start those negotiations with the Senior Activity Committee again as well to see what our best options are moving forward. I also took the opportunity to call and reach out to the realtors for the BMO listing, which is on downtown. I do have those economics. I think it's best that we do not divulge those in this meeting. So if any of you are curious, I could fill you in once that camera's turned off. In fact, we could do that right after the meeting here if anybody's interested. This coming Monday, I will be meeting with the Legion Post, right here in this room. They are very anxious to get the rideshare up and running. We do have permission from ADRC and Outagamie County to start that process now, as long as the volunteers are okay with it, and they are. So we will be doing the marketing and promotions. We'll start later in June, but we are looking at July 6th as the official kickoff to that rideshare program. Some more planning and activities in the village. The baseball and softball seasons for HYS will go on proceed as scheduled with an abbreviated schedule. They will be starting practicing next week at Otto Miller, and they're doing a 1-month season in July. You can see discuss liability coverage in highlight. So what happened is we had some inquiries as to whether or not the village is covered, because a lot of your surrounding municipalities have canceled their seasons. So I took the time to reach out with our carrier, McClone, who reverted it to the League of Wisconsin Municipalities. Essentially, what their reply is, since the state order has been basically disregarded, it then reverts to the county. The county put out their health offer, or through their health department, put out their safety order, which has then been rescinded. So with that being rescinded, it reverts to the municipality to make that decision. Essentially, in good faith, I think it's the best interest we allow these people to play their games. It would also affect Park and Rec. So with the graces given by the village board at a previous meeting, we decided to move forward with Park and Rec, HYS baseball, and then any other options or actions that may happen in the park. This could and would stop if a new order would come through. So
There's also a waiver that's being required of all
yeah,
players.
that's from
and parents.
HYS.
But the waiver just says Hortonville Youth Sports, it
Yeah.
doesn't say Village of
It
Hortonville.
didn't,
Right.
it didn't,
Yeah.
yeah, so we just did our diligence to check on it with the insurance carrier. We are covered, and I have that email tucked away in my storage bank. Another thing with programming and planning, we have been dealing with multiple nuisance complaints that are coming in, so they're reported and noted. They've been acted upon by myself and the admin team. We have junk vehicles, grass, building conditions, vermin. So the protocol we've been using is letters, inspections of premise, and police if needed. And we are trying to remedy the situations as they come in. Carl took the step into creating a door hanger. We had it for littering, for when you cut your grass and put it into the road. We now have it for high grass to help with that process. And I also have on the calendar, we're gonna develop the same kind of door hanger to initiate conversations for ice and snow when it comes back to the winter months. It's just an easier step to initiate a conversation if and when we need to do that. We have had some issues with the village siren in the past weeks. Chris and I and Carl are all contacted on that. It has continued to fail on call attempts. It is activating on Saturdays, correct?
Yes.
It's activating, but it's not reporting. So they did an initial review of it. Surge protector has failed again. Carl and I signed the invoice today. That will be installed next week. Should be right back to where we're at. So we are monitoring that piece of equipment. Right now, $140 is not the end of the world, but if it continues a nickel and dime, we may have to look at other options for that siren as well.
What's causing the surge protector to go down? Improper grounding?
I'm not sure. We just had a thorough
They
review.
last typically 2 to 3 years. Jim might know better, but battery backup units, what we're talking about here, about 2 to 3.
That's fairly common.
We have
Either the sensitivity of the circuit goes or the battery fails.
We are on a contract with Sheboygan Storm Warning Siren, and they're doing their annual, and it just went through the annual, and then it just failed about a month later, so. Also to mimic what the library is doing, the village hall will also be opening, and we'll be back to full staff on Monday, with no restrictions. I've listed out my meetings, library board, two meetings in the last couple weeks here. I met with Keller Structures, met with the fire department last night. And then I've had multiple webinars in regards to COVID, and they continue to be informational based. So, any questions I'll answer you.
One quick question. The routes to recovery grant allocation by the state, did you get anything from the state on that? Because
It's actually, I'll be honest, it's very unclear,
Yeah,
because it
wasn't.
it doesn't really relate to municipalities, it relates to individualized businesses, schools, daycares. It won't give us a clear step, because Park and Rec doesn't fall into it, youth sports kinda doesn't fall into it. It generalizes it by buildings and or events, rather than by a grouping of like a municipality.
So the 46,000 that they're allocated for Hortonville, what they're saying, what your understanding is that it's businesses within Hortonville, it's
No,
not the
no.
municipality?
No, essentially that goes back to what Jane had said before with the
Okay.
CARES Act.
Okay,
Essentially, anything that's unbudgeted, we can solicit for. I have it on my calendar to target for August 1 for our first submission. You can submit them monthly, weekly, or bi-weekly up until November 1 for anything that was unbudgeted as an expense to COVID-19.
and that can go up to that 46,000.
Correct, that is your cap. You
Okay.
can't exceed that.
Okay,
However, it doesn't, like the payroll that we offer the employees for a week on, week off, doesn't qualify because that wasn't unbudgeted.
what about,
It would be
okay,
expenses for PPE.
PPE, or even like this?
The barriers.
Sneeze guard,
Barriers,
barriers and all
yes,
that stuff?
yes. That's all been being tracked by Chris Carl, and Jane's got her election stuff on there, so.
I was also told that we could look, and this is maybe more of a Jane thing, because the interest rates dropped so much, that we're not making as much interest in the bank, that could potentially be a revenue source that we lost. Because that, we did our budget based on the fact that we had a certain interest rate. I would look into the loss of interest income, because we were getting quite a bit of interest income. That would be something that you could put into that 46,000.
That we'd have to look at, I didn't know.
That's the kind of things I think we just, the thinking outside of the box, you know, what have we lost because of this? So, okay. Sorry, I just wanted to
No,
ask. It's been on the tip of my tongue and I didn't want to forget to ask about it.
That's all I had.
Any questions? We'll move to 10, communications and miscellaneous business, a Black Otter Lake District news.
Nothing new.
Okay,
I can give an update too. Helped Public Works yesterday. The weed harvester is back on site. Myself, Chris, and Colton installed the first parts of a pier. So you'll see if you walk through Black Otter Park, there is basically a landing pier for the weed harvester it will be a permanent structure now. So we actually used the pole pounders and we went into the ground. So it's a permanent fixture that'll be used for the harvester. Also, a gravel pad is in Alonzo Park right now to help keep the grass from being pounded like it was last year. It's very wet right now. So
So is the harvester running on the lake yet?
it is not, because
It went one way.
it went one way across. It got delivered. Now they got to bring out, there's two parts to that harvester. That harvester beaches onto an elevator, then the elevator drops it into a truck. That elevator is gonna be set up next week as well. We had to get the pad built up for that elevator to sit on. All it does is it brings it up higher, so then it can dump into the truck. So
It's really getting weedy.
It's
out
bad.
there.
Yeah, it's really
Yeah,
bad.
really
It's
bad.
really bad.
Early.
There's
Fishing
complaints
wise,
coming in.
yes.
I also believe, having talked to Al was on site yesterday, I don't think their manpower is, they said they had enough. I don't think right now they might be a little bit short. So they're gonna be putting some serious time into this effort here in the near future. It's getting bad.
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's really
And it's
bad.
early.
Yeah.
A
Very
lot
early.
earlier, it's not August, it's,
we'll move to B, Hortonville, Hortonia Fire District news.
I had a meeting last night. Good news is no expensable accidents in May again for the third consecutive month. So there's nothing for us to report on that. However, we have been able to collect all but $100 so far of anything that's come in. And then I'm gonna throw it into this one, but for FYI, for all members, Bob Lipke has resigned his chair in Hortonia. Not sure what happened there, but it came up at the fire meeting as well, so I just wanted to make sure.
He's moved out of town.
Okay, wasn't sure what was going on there. Dennis Clegg is the acting chairman, so if anybody needs to know.
C is Gold Cross Ambulance Run reports and news, and there is none. D, Hortonville Civic Association,
None.
nothing. E, Senior Activities Committee,
June 25th, we're reconvening. So we'll have more of a report after that.
okay. 11, comments and suggestions from citizens present, there are none.
I'll make a
Well-
motion to adjourn the meeting.
Adjourned.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Adjourned.
Yeah,